This is Ypres. There were 4 battles at Ypres during the First World War. The first one was in 1914 when the Germans tried to break through to the sea, which was about 30 or 40 miles away. They very nearly did, a fact that influenced the British commander Haig. The second battle was in 1915 when chlorine gas was used for the first time on a significant scale in the war, and the third battle was in 1917 and is known as Third Ypres or Passion. This is the canal at Ypres. Most of the fighting took place about 5 miles away in the distance, in the direction that we're looking at. Ypres formed a salient sticking out into the German lines. Down there to the south was a high ridge, the Messines Ridge, and the ridge led in the far distance, about 5 miles away, to the village of Passchendaele. Here a section of partially restored German trench, quite near to White Sheet. This is in the area where the ridge was mined, and we think this is a support trench and not front line because there's no fire step and it's not very high and there are no sandbags at the top. In 1917, before Third Ypres, in July, a whole series of 19 mines were blown round the Messines Ridge to the south east of Ypres. And this one is called Spanbroek Wolen, and about 20 tons of ammonal was used to create this crater and put into place by miners. From near Spanbroek crater, this is looking towards a northerly direction, and over there somewhere would be in the direction of Ypres, down that valley there, and one can see the clay soil here. This is a crater that was mined and blown before the attack on Messines Ridge. This is called the Caterpillar, and it's the largest of these craters. This is the view backwards from Hill 60 towards Ypres. Having the higher ground gives an advantage for observing the artillery fire. After the Battle of Messines Ridge, there was a 6-week interval before the next part of the battle took place, which was under General Gough, who was thought to be more of a thruster than General Plumer, who had organised the attack on the Messines Ridge. Unfortunately, during August, the battlefield became waterlogged as it was raining all the time, and the shells churned it up, and also disrupted the natural drainage system, so that pretty much all of August was fought under rather appalling conditions. Example of a British trench with A-frames and duckboards and corrugated iron and sandbags at the top. This is the Passchendaele Ridge, up which the soldiers struggled to take Passchendaele. It doesn't look very high, but it's 55 meters. Here is Essex Farm Cemetery, which inspired the famous poem In Flanders Fields by John McCrae. This area was used as a dressing station for most of the war. The front line is just off to the right, and the location of this is at Essex Farm, and this is where John McCrae wrote his famous poem In Flanders Fields. This little stream here is the Steenbeek, which overflowed its banks during the war and extensively flooded the battlefield, and had quite an effect on the battle. Such a little stream and such a large effect. This is Langemarck. There were actually two battles of Langemarck. The first one is where it was overrun and captured by the Germans, and in 1917 it was recaptured by the Allies during the Third Ypres, and the direction I was looking in is towards Ypres, and you can get a pretty good idea of the how easily this ground would be made into the shell-filled bog that it was actually turned into. In October, the battle was recommenced. It was good weather for most of September, but unfortunately in October the rains came again, and the battlefield was churned up by shell fire and by the breaching of the natural drainage system, and it became a morass of mud. And the Germans also built up a system of pillboxes for defence, so that the next stage of the attack was not much of a success. This is Tyne-Cot Cemetery, the largest Commonwealth cemetery in the world. 12,000 soldiers either buried here or their remains removed after the war. In the background there, the ridge over which many of them fought, leading up towards Passchendaele. This is the museum at Passchendaele, which commemorates the attack on the village and on the Passchendaele Ridge by New Zealanders, Australians, Canadians and British. The attack successfully captured the village and the ridge by mid-November 1917, but such were the losses that most historians think that Haig was wrong to call on to make the attack, and it would have been better if things had been called off in mid-September. This is the Menin Gate at Ypres, the memorial that was built after the war.